welcome on into another action-packed and live edition of the Between the Hash Marks podcast. It is a Philadelphia Eagles, Pittsburgh Steelers post-mortem, an NFL divisional round look ahead. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, and I'm joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, the purveyor of the Two Deep Zone, Mike Tanier is here. Michael, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay, but I have to ask you, I didn't notice this until we started. Is my beard extra bristly today?
It looks like you were trying to grow out the playoff beard and then forgot to shave it off when your team was eliminated. That's what it feels like. You're the hockey player who decided, you know what? I grew out the playoff beard. I kind of like it. We'll see how long we can keep it.
It actually was. I grew out the no-shave November beard, but then forgot to trim it this week. So I think that's what's going on. But we're not here to talk about beards. We're here to talk about the NFL. And I want to start out right away. We've got 5-star reviews, don't we?
Yes, we do. And as always, if you enjoyed the podcast, please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store to the Between the Hashmarks podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Tell us what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, because it really helps boost us in the algorithm. It boosts us up the NFL podcast rankings. And Mike, we have not one but 2 5-star reviews to read. And they're both complimentary, believe it or not.
Right. Now, just to remember, you can leave a terrible review. As long as it's not like completely offensive, you know what I'm talking about. You can leave a bad, funny, obnoxious, hating on my beard, whatever review. And if you put 5 stars on it, we still review it. But these are the good kind.
They are the good kind. So if you want to rip us, just leave the 5 stars and then rip us in the comments. It's fine. We'll read it. We'll give you your moment in the sun. This one comes in from Racing35. Expertise and humor is the headline. 5 stars. Matt and Mike eschew the latest and usual takes and have substantive conversations about football. It's a rarity these days.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. I love eschewing things.
Well, yeah, it's fun.
I eschew my food every morning. Go on.
Chris Colby checks in. I love the snark, 5 stars, by the way. So do I. It's why I enjoy working on this podcast with you so much. But love the snark. I'm so glad to have something smart to listen to that's neither NFL PR nor pure film nerd. Thanks.
Yeah, he's teeing me up there. I hear it. You're seeing. I hear it with a film nerd thing. They're lovely people. But thank you very much. We love doing what we're doing.
We do, and the film nerds, let's just, we'll pour one out for the film nerds after the Justin Herbert latest loss on Saturday night.
Yeah, they're struggling. This is not their time, so remember them in their time of need, in the annual post-Herbert early January exit.
It's a tradition unlike any other. And of course, if you enjoy the podcast, subscribe to the Apple Podcast Store. Check us out on my YouTube channel. That's at Matt Lombardo 975. More importantly, if you enjoy our work, if you enjoy Mike's firebrand of storytelling with the dad jokes and the analytics deep dives and the superhero comparisons, all of those things, make sure you subscribe to the Two Deep Zone. NFL draft coverage is coming up soon. The Two Deep Zone is your one-stop shop for all things draft. Check it out there. If you enjoy my insider reporting, the features we put together, like the Caleb Williams feature last week going into Wild Card Weekend, subscribe to Between the Hash Marks on Substack as well. And Mike, you had a great column this morning. So when people are done watching the podcast, head over to the Two Deep Zone. You had the optimists and the pessimists take on the Pittsburgh Steelers season, the end of their season. I'll go a step further here. I loved your column. I enjoyed it. I read it with the cold brew coffee this morning. The NFL script writers, they outdid themselves. Your column was great, but I don't know that you could script a better ending to that game or to Aaron Rodgers' career than a pick 6 that followed up Sheldon Rankins and Will Anderson Jr. racing to the quarterback, stripping the ball and returning it for a touchdown. Salute and salutations to Aaron Rodgers, hopefully once and for all.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it's right. It's like the end of the vampire movie where the stake goes through the heart and then the sun comes out. Like dead, still dead, not undead, all dead. And the only people who didn't get the message, I think, were Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin, who, I get it. You're not going to say, well, I officially retire right now while, like, you know, your bones are still throbbing or whatever. But, like, that finality, you saw it, we saw it, anybody watching that game saw it. It's over. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah, and the Steelers have really built this self-imposed ceiling over themselves for the past, 5 years, 6 years, dating back further than that. Whenever Ben Roethlisberger departed, you think about the quarterbacks since 2020. Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. It's the pyramid and the pantheon of mediocrity. And Will Howard ain't the guy, right? I mean, no
Right.
disrespect, but he ain't the guy long term. And they really should have, when they realized that Kenny Pickett wasn't going to be the franchise quarterback they drafted him to be, they
Mhm.
really should have committed to a teardown right then and there to find the quarterback to build around. They should have certainly done it last year when
Yeah.
Justin Fields and Russell Wilson had the wheels fall off down the stretch. And they absolutely, positively, no doubt about it, need to do it now after
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers could only take them so far, and an offense built around every tight end in the league and every fullback in the league could only lead you so far. But will they? Will they hit the reset button at quarterback? What's your read there?
Your mention of the tight ends, and Donnell Washington was injured this week. So number 74 was split wide. Forgive me, I forget that lineman's name. He split wide like a wide receiver on some of these plays. Like, come on. And we go back, I would say it goes back to when Roethlisberger hurt his arm, his shoulder. That's when it started, because he was out there playing kind of the way Aaron Rodgers played at his best this year, kind of flinging the ball, trying not to get hit. And they still said, let's try another year of this. Let's try another year. So that goes about 6 years back. They're not getting rid of Tomlin. They're not. That's not happening this year. I think it should happen. But what's terrifying is this talk about bringing Aaron Rodgers back. Like,
I don't know how you even whisper about that, because we all saw it. We all saw it. It was the definition of average, sometimes above average, sometimes below average, in an offense that was built to succeed in 1937. Because you're trying to prop up Aaron Rodgers at this advanced stage of his career, the limitations, and when DK Metcalf isn't there, you're not even able to capitalize on what's left of his deep ball ability. But where do you even go from here? Because you're not going to be picking in the top 15 in the draft, so you're not close enough to trade up for one of those top prospects. Did you pull another Steelers Band-Aid and you flip a 6th-round pick for Kyler Murray? Do you sign Malik Willis? Or what is even the end game here for them? Because they backed themselves so far in the corner. I love the analogy in your column that it's like watching a Three Stooges episode where the Steelers bonk Aaron Rodgers on the head, who bonks the Steelers on the head, who bonks some sense into them to go get a quarterback. But it's just a bad time to need a quarterback because they kicked this can down the road for half a decade.
Yeah, and you know what? You say Kyler Murray, and I hear Russell Wilson. And you say Malik Willis, and I hear Justin Fields. And you say, well, if you pick 15th overall and you move up to 8th, I hear Kenny Pickett. And so this is the question they need to be asking now. And Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin, if both are staying on, I think both are staying on. Let's say Arthur Smith stays on as well. That answer has to come. It has to be outside the box. Maybe it's a giant blockbuster trade. Maybe they have fallen in love with somebody in the draft we don't know about. It can't just be more of the same. And I'll tell you, if it is something like, it's going to be Malik Willis, there better be some sort of structural move around that to say it's going to be him. But we're also bringing in, I don't know, Kyle Pitts and Rico Dowdle and name 2-star offensive lineman. Some combination there of to say this will be different from, we're just going to roll back one of the variations of this, including, as Mike Tomlin again, you're going to be hearing the same old song and dance from him.
Yeah, and just the outside the box idea off the top of my head. I mean, no bad ideas in a brainstorm, especially a brainstorm that's been going on for 5 years.
Yeah.
Call Matt Ryan. And not to have him play quarterback, but call president of football Matt Ryan and offer a 1st and a 2nd-round pick for Michael Penix. First-round pedigree, change of scenery, team control for 2 years. Listen, you're not going to get a guy at picking 20 who's going to have more upside than Penix. The issues, were they scheme related? Were they situation related? I struggle to find a better option out there given their circumstances.
That's a check the medicals. That's a big check the medicals one. But like some kind of outside the box, I'm worried they call Matt Ryan. They either wind up trading for Kirk Cousins or trading for Matt Ryan. That's my worry. That's my worry if they do something like that. But but that's exactly the kind of thing. What are we doing now to make this different? So it's not like we're going to play tough defense. We're going to have 58-yard Boswell field goals, and Mac Jones is going to be out there playing quarterback. Do not want to hear it. Do not want to see it. I don't think any Yinzer wants to either.
Alvaro checks in. I think that Malik Willis is better than Michael Penix. He probably is,
Yeah,
and
maybe.
I think that Malik Willis might be what the Steelers thought Justin Fields was, and what the Jets thought Justin Fields was. A little bit, all the mobility, a little bit more functional from the pocket. But I don't.
Right,
I mean, you're talking about quarterback 6 versus quarterback 7.5, right? In terms of a
right, right.
rating scale, it's indiscernible. When you talk about playing great defense, sure, that's been the Steelers' way is trying to ground it out with a running game, hold teams to, under 200 yards of offense. The Texans, they punched them in the mouth playing the
Hmm.
historic brand of Pittsburgh
Yes.
Steeler football. The Texans defense outscored the Steelers 14-6 last night. And we're going to talk about the Steelers later in the show, but it just feels like that defense is playing a Super Bowl caliber brand of
Yes.
football. And you think back to what the Steelers had even 2 years ago with that defense. If you just had a quarterback, if you just had a functional quarterback anytime over the last 2 or 3 years, maybe you would have won a playoff game.
Yeah, would have won a playoff game, would have gotten the championship game, would have gotten to maybe won enough regular season games to be hosting a championship game where got some other guy to get the yips. Someone else got the yip. You had the cold weather advantage, whatever. But yeah, you talk about the Texans. We will talk about them a little bit later. But yeah, you can argue that the Seahawks have a better defense. You can argue that the Broncos have a better defense. You can talk about scheme. But if you just say, here's the 11 guys, and they're going to call their own plays. So it's probably just going to be, cover 1, cover 2, man, rush 4, basic blitz. The Texans will win. They will beat those other guys because manpower to manpower, that's the best defense in the NFL.
Totally agree. And the Steelers season is over. So too is the Philadelphia Eagles. And, I do a pick against the spread podcast on Fridays. I picked the 49ers because I thought that they, at minimum, could cover. I was on Fox 29 on Friday. I said the Eagles would win a close game, kind of talking myself into that prediction. I just wish that I would have stuck with my convictions that this was a bad matchup based on how inept the Eagles offense has been all season long. Because like we said going into last week, like I wrote in the mailbag on Friday, we had 18 weeks. There was a 17-game sample size of what that offense was, what it was going to be. There was no holding back. They are what they are, and now they are at home.
Yes, now they are at home where they belong. We all get to be like, we get to go on with our lives a little bit. Most of the Eagles fans I talk to day to day, like, we're done. Somewhere around week 6. And I was holding out. It's like, guys, like anything can happen. Week 6 last year, you guys wanted Sirianni fired. Okay. But as it went on, it's like, this isn't changing. This isn't improving. It's now, go Sixers, go Nova if that's how you're so inclined. And let's watch the rest of these games. So there's not a lot of, I don't think tears being shed right now in Philadelphia, but I think a lot of us are looking at this and saying, well, structural changes have to happen. They should start soon, because now's the time to get rid of some of the potential bad apples. And that's why I sent you, because you have more insider information than I do, a sort of a stay or go on or back, smash or trash, etc. for some of the Eagles' main characters.
For sure. And I think that when you look at what went wrong with the offense, and a lot of these changes are offense related because that was their undoing. That was their Achilles heel. Like, I went back before we went on the air here. I looked at the last 8 weeks or so, and I threw out the Raiders game because Vegas quit in November. That was a third preseason game. That was everybody feel good and sing Kumbaya at the link, and we're going to right the ship. But over the second half of the year, dating back to the Eagles' loss in Dallas against the Cowboys, they had more than 10 first downs in the second half only twice. So that was against the Bears on Black Friday. They only had 2 first downs in the first half. So the script was flipped. And against Washington, they had 13. Playoff loss against the Niners, 8 second half first downs. Bills lost 1 first down in the second half. Chargers on the road, 8 first downs in the second half. And against the Cowboys, 7 first downs in the second half as they melted down. When you can't move the ball, when you can't sustain drives, when you're not getting chunk plays, it is really hard to win in the modern NFL. And the Eagles proved that because they never figured out how to sustain the momentum for 60 minutes, never found out what they wanted to be offensively. And like you said, now they get to stare down the barrel at some potential changes and some real soul searching throughout that building in a lot of ways.
Right. And so I'll throw these guys to you, and there's no surprising names on this list. And again, this is not what we want. This is not our feels. this is what we think is going to happen. Okay, so it's go on or back. We'll start with the obvious. Start at the top. Nick Sirianni, go on or back.
Yeah, I don't know how you fired Nick Sirianni a year removed from winning a Super Bowl with 2 Super Bowl appearances on his ledger,
Right.
right? But
Right.
but I'll couch it by saying this, that if they fired him today, if we got off the air at 2:15 p.m. and we get the Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport notification that the Eagles had fired him, does he get a next job? Like, is he more coveted than John Harbaugh or Kevin Stefanski or Jeff Hafley? I'm not
Yep.
so sure, because what Nick Sirianni does is he builds a great culture when you're winning.
Mm-hmm.
When they're losing, the wheels fall off at an accelerated pace. Doesn't call the offensive plays, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
build the defense, isn't the special teams voice. He's the coach of the vibes, and I think he's back. I don't think that you can rightfully fire him based on the resume of the last 3 seasons. But if he somehow stands up there in Howie Roseman's office or in the owner's suite in front of Jeffrey Lurie and says, "You know what? I believe in Kevin Patullo. Kevin Patullo is my guy," then I think you kind of have to cut bait, because you just cannot bring back that offensive power structure going into next year.
That's the Doug Peterson Press Taylor gambit, what you just described, and that
Right.
got Doug fired. But it sounded like Doug didn't mind getting fired too much. Am I lying?
No, not at all. Not one bit.
Okay. Okay. And also, it's like people liked Doug. Doug's likable, so it's almost like with heavy heart, we're going to do this because you won't follow along. I'll say this. I don't think he's getting fired. The longer this goes where we don't hear about anybody else, I think the more the likelihood comes, like it goes from like 0.1% to like 1% or 2%, because like this ball rolling on Patullo, who we're about to get to, suggests that there are more smoky backdoor meetings happening than
And
just,
you remember, you brought up the Doug Peterson firing. I think that happened, if my memory serves me, it was like a Wednesday or Thursday
yeah,
after, because remember there was the meeting at Jeffrey Lurie's house, and they
yeah,
were, scratching together whether or not there would be staff changes. Really interesting parallels to this current situation. And
good.
eventually they wound up turning the page and pulling the plug. Again, I don't think that you fire Nick
No,
Sirianni, but it's not
no.
it's a non-zero chance that he's gone.
It's a non-zero. This should be the grace period year. Super Bowl grace period. And again, it's a winning the division grace period year. So it's not like they went 4-12. But you're right. If the Eagles were doing something, they would do something very methodically, and they would get everybody involved and have the extra meeting. And even if you want Sirianni fired, folks, you want an organization doing diligence like that. You don't want Jerry out there, fire his ass. You want that kind of thing to happen.
Well, let me ask you this, because I
Uh,
think this is a fascinating, compelling conversation to have. There was the report when John Harbaugh parted ways with the Ravens. There were 7 coaching vacancies at that time, reporting from, I believe, Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, that 8
mhm.
teams reached
Yeah.
out to
That was,
John Harbaugh.
it was the Dolphins. Yeah.
It might have been, but if
Yeah.
you're the Eagles now, if you're the Eagles today, right?
Mhm.
Is part of your Nick Sirianni due diligence picking up the phone and calling John Harbaugh and taking the temperature about coming back to where it began as a special teams coach? I just, there aren't that many compelling candidates out there that you can say that are definitively upgrades over Nick Sirianni. John Harbaugh might check some of those boxes based on the resume and the track record and the cultures that he's built in Baltimore.
I could picture Jeffrey Lurie sending a text message and just said, "Hey, that kind of text message, right?" And just seeing what happens. Uh, Theoretically, it's fine. One of the problems is you are now going to sort of the back of the Harbaugh list. So, like, how does that work out from a time frame? Like, Harbaugh said he's taking time. He claims he's watching Jackson Dart and Cam Ward film. I'm guessing that took him about a half an hour, and now he's waiting for the Dolphins to call him and make some kind of offer. But they're going to wait because they're going to interview like Kubiak and stuff like that. So you don't want to sort of be stuck in that holding pattern when it seems like he's already been on the phone with the Maras, who love him, with the Rosses, who love all things Harbaugh.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. So I wouldn't I wouldn't fire somebody to wind up being fourth on his dance card. Let's put it that way.
Right, unless you had some sort of assurances that, like, his family loves the region and they want to come
Yeah.
back here, and he coveted the job from the moment he was on Andy Reid's staff. Unless you had those
Right.
sort of assurances that he was yours, yeah, I don't
Right.
think you fire Nick Sirianni to make that move.
No, and Harbaugh seems like he wants some zero income tax, Florida lifestyle too. That's going to add extra appeal for Harbaugh. All right, so we think Sirianni's staying. We're all on the same page on it. Where it's like, oh, I guess I wouldn't cry if he left, right? But like, no, we get it. The grace period. Okay, Patullo, cornerback.
No chance you bring him back. You can't bring him back, right? I mean, when
Right.
you have Jalen Hurts in press conferences, essentially over the last couple of weeks, giving flowers to the quarterback coach, hopefully we can keep him on staff. When you look at the degradation of the offense this year, when you look at how it ended, just some interesting numbers. Eagles finished 24th in total offense. The Steelers and Panthers were the only playoff teams with worse offenses this year. They finished 19th in points per game at 22.3 points per game. Only the Chargers and Panthers scored fewer among NFL playoff teams. And the Eagles finished 16th in expected points per play on offense, tied with the New York Football Giants at 0.01 points per play. Only the Chargers among playoff offenses were worse. When you look at the numbers, you look at the eye test, you look at the culture falling apart, you can't bring him back into that building. You can't.
Right.
I'm shocked he hasn't been fired already.
That's why I'm like refreshing. Like what's going on that this hasn't happened, because the Cowboys jettisoned Matt Eberflus like moments later. That this is the guy you got to get rid of it. And you isolated it with Jalen Hurts there, because Hurts in the building every day, understanding the politics of the NFL now after 6 or 7 seasons in the league, has shifted into, I'm saving my guy's job.
Yeah.
I'm putting public endorsements of my guy out there, which means I know my guy's boss is in trouble, and I'm in protection mode. These guys, it's real politique, folks. They're in the building every day. They're watching out for each other in ways that we can't necessarily say, and that's what Jalen Hurts was doing in those like sound clips, sound bites.
He was isolating him from the Kevin Patullo blame.
Yes.
That if there would be any sort of house cleaning, he did not want his guy caught up in it,
right.
and maybe you promote from within to keep Jalen Hurts his guy, keep Jalen Hurts happy. I don't think that's the route they go. I think that they would do an exhaustive search with experienced, former offensive coordinators from staffs that got blown out. Maybe Todd Monken is a guy that you pick up the phone and you take the temperature on, but you need to have a legitimate NFL scheme. The Eagles didn't have a scheme dating back to this entire year. The one game where you saw them actually look like a functioning offense was against the Giants at home on a day that Cam Scatterbo had his leg, shattered, and the Giants were deflated for 3/4 of that game and weren't really into it. That was the only time the Eagles looked functional all year from an offensive standpoint. So to me, you got to bring in fresh voices, fresh ideas, and a fresh scheme going into next year.
You better start now, because Monken is interviewing for the OC job with the Buccaneers. Kafka is interviewing with the Lions. All of these guys, there's this is the offensive coordinator for life type guy who comes in with fresh ideas. McDaniel's interviewing for head coaching jobs. I don't think he's going to get one, but he's going to be top priority coordinator. You get one of these guys, then you try to promote. I'm sorry, I don't know Jalen Hurts' quarterback coach name. It escapes me right now. Promote him the passing game coordinator, or recognize that Jalen got him the job to go out there and be the Jets quarterback coach when they bring in Mendoza or whatever. I got you the next job. It was the best I could do.
Yeah, Scott Leffler is the guy.
Okay,
Brian Dable might get a head coaching job somewhere, but I don't think that you pick up the phone and make Brian Dable your offensive coordinator.
No!
I don't see it.
Stop saying Brian Dable. Stop saying that word. I don't want to hear that word. He's interviewing for the Titans. Cam Ward is going to show up with a flamethrower for the first meeting and say, "This is how it's going to be. This is how it's going be. I am not putting up with your crap. Yeah, this is my offense. You are not getting me injured for the rest of my life, you weirdo. You sicko." Okay. All right. So Patullo's out. Moving on. Cornerback, A.J. Brown.
I go back and forth on this one, because the cap hit is absurd. It's something like $20 million in dead money if they move on from A.J. Brown before June 1 next year. But Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are just competitive enough that they might decide to eat the money because
Mhm.
the relationship got so bad, because the offense got so dysfunctional. I was talking to an NFL scouting director for an AFC team on Sunday night right after the game, and he told me that it seemed like Jalen was targeting in on and keying in on AJ Brown too often this year in an effort to try to keep AJ Brown happy.
Yeah.
A lot of good that did.
Yeah.
Didn't keep the good vibes flowing in the playoff loss of the 49ers, didn't get the production going. No second half catches for AJ Brown against San Francisco. If we want to talk about where things went wrong, I think a lot of it rests on the scheme, but AJ Brown was not on the same page with anybody on that offense for a good portion of the year. When you look back even to last season, he was the most important player on that roster. When he had over 100 yards receiving, the Eagles won. When he didn't, they struggled. I don't know, Mike. I just think that money might not be the be all end all for the Eagles in that situation. And if they can get a draft pick for him, I would not be shocked if they move on.
Yeah, Howie made a real wackadoodle contract with AJ to keep him, and that wackadoodle contract helped the Eagles win a Super Bowl. I don't know if there's a ripcord in it. I don't understand contracts enough to know where Howie, of all people, might have hidden a ripcord. There doesn't seem to be a ripcord in there anywhere. Howie knows how much money Howie can eat. No one knows more about that kind of thing. Like, I can absorb this by doing this and doing this, and our eyes would glaze over if he explained it. But if there's draft picks out there, if there's some team that says Brown's the missing piece, we'll make him happy. He could, yeah, and they don't have to pay much. I'm looking at they'd have to eat so little salary because again, this was a wacky construction of a contract. You could get a first round. The Eagles spent a first round. You could probably still get a first round, and then you say, okay, it's another year they have to play Quinion. It's another year they have to pay Cooper DeJean. All these other things they could work in. It's possible. Maybe it's a 25-30% chance, but in my heart of hearts, I kind of want to see it because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the routine.
Yeah, and you're not going to get a first round pick out of the Jets, I don't think. But the Jets
No.
have like $68 million in cap space, and you could put AJ Brown opposite Garrett Wilson with
Yeah.
Dante Moore as your quarterback. Great spot, to kind of start building there. You talk about the Kansas City Chiefs; they might
Yeah.
be a team that if you get a couple of second round picks, you get them out of the NFC, ship them over to Kansas City, you get to play with Patrick Mahomes. The Raiders would be interesting.
The Chargers have like $120 million in cap space.
There you go, and they have a quarterback they need to prop up.
Herbo and Brown. Beautiful. Two great tastes that taste great. Chocolate and peanut butter.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Who's next on our list?
I lost my. Oh, here we go. Here's one you might have something inside on. Lane Johnson, cornerback.
The only reason he would go, I think, is if he retires.
Yeah.
I think that he's an Eagle for life. I do.
Right.
I think they would bring him back regardless. I don't get the sense he's ready to hang it up, but he's one of these guys that building a great life outside of football for himself. There were the mental health battles that he fought through over the last several years. He might just decide that enough is enough, and he'll move on, and he'll never have to buy a beer or a dinner in the city of Philadelphia again because of his impact on both Super Bowl teams. I think he's back, but I'd say maybe there's a 4% chance that he retires, and that's the end of it. But I don't see them moving on by any stretch of the imagination.
They ain't trading him, and it's not like they're cutting him. But I think that retirement's in place. Is he somebody you think who could be looking at how the offensive coaching staff is structured?
Yeah, but I don't think that factors in the decision. I think he just loves to play football. I think he's a guy that loves to be out there and is a big part of what they do.
Okay, and he answers to Southland day in and day out, and that's not a guy people are mad at. That's not somebody anyone wants to see move on. So, all right, that's interesting. Dallas Goedert, free agent.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I thought that they had the opportunity to move on from Dallas Goedert last year when you had that really deep tight end class, when you had Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren as first-round prospects. You had Elijah Arroyo, who had a really nice rookie year, really deep tight end class across the board. And they didn't move on, and they brought him back. And I think he played his way into Dallas Goedert, did a contract extension this year because he was the most dangerous red zone weapon on that offense. He caught 10 red zone touchdowns this year. Jalen Hurts only threw 16 red zone touchdown passes on the season. 10 of them went to Goddard. Saquon Barkley, just for comparison's sake, only scored 5 of his touchdowns from inside the red zone. So when you talk about when the field got shorter, the odds of Dallas Goedert making an impact shot spot up. So you don't have a replacement on the roster. They didn't draft
Right.
somebody early that they were developing. I haven't really dove with both feet into the draft class this year yet, but I don't get the sense that it's loaded with tight ends. So I
Mhm.
think that Goddard probably played his way into a pretty nice deal. And if you're the Eagles, I don't know how you let him go elsewhere based on the year he just had.
Yeah, that makes sense. They don't have a lot of money to place elsewhere. I think that's part of it. I think they do have enough money for extensions, though. And you're right; he's kind of irreplaceable because there's only 3 people in the entire passing game, and he's one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any surprises?
Not for me. I could see them maybe making some moves along the offensive line. I could see that this draft class being, you think about a couple of years ago when they drafted both Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean early.
Mhm.
I could see them making that kind of investment along the
Yeah,
interior. I think you need to really beef up that depth chart, maybe a long term succession plan for Lane Johnson. You could see them take an offensive lineman in 2 of the first 3 picks, and I wouldn't bat an eye at something like that.
yeah, I could see something like that as well, like guard tackle, tackle guard, and
Yeah,
then
because when you look at what went wrong this year, we talked a lot about Saquon Barkley not having the year he had last season. When you talk about the offense kind of falling off the rails, that offensive line, you talk to evaluators, scouts, front offices in other buildings, coaches who played against them. Everybody points to that offensive line not being as good as it has been and as dominant as it has been in the past. This might be the year, this might be the draft that they go all in and just really invest in the future of that group.
I could see it, and that goes back to Sunday when there were positive plays, particularly in the second half, negated by holding penalties. I think one of them was by Goddard on the edge or Calcetta on the edge, I forget. And there were also a lot of plays where Saquon gets shut down, and you see the guy who got through the line for the 49ers, and you're like, who is that? That is not somebody we should be worried about. I know Bryce Huff was one of those, so I was like, we're familiar with that guy. But like, how are we losing? How is guys like Steen and Jurgens? How are they losing these battles? And that's where you say that these are places that you need to upgrade the offense, need to upgrade the personnel.
For sure. And I think that when you look at that game on Sunday, I wrote about it in Monday's column. It really felt like that was Kyle Shanahan at his best. They
Oh yeah,
found different ways to get Christian McCaffrey involved. They didn't have Brandon Ayuk. They didn't have Ricky Pearsall. They lost George Kittle. And there was never a point in that game where the 49ers offense wasn't in control, especially in the second
good.
half. The Jawan Jennings trick play, hats off to Kyle Shanahan. I think that his scheme, to me, there aren't many coaches I would take schematically in the league over Kyle Shanahan. And they finished the job in a way that Matt LaFleur and the Packers couldn't on Saturday night.
Right, and that's kind of a difference between Kyle Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan light, which is Lafleur.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And maybe Kyle Shanahan is a little bit of a Sean McVay light, but I don't know. They took care of business. I think this brings us around to our next segment, though, because it's time to. Okay, that's our second, maybe our 10th eulogy of the Eagles this year.
Yeah.
So they're completely dead, not mostly dead, not the Princess Bride. They're dead. 8 teams to survive. And you wrote a thing on Monday, and I don't think you had the Patriots. You sent it out before the Texans game, but you had matchups to watch for the playoff game. Yeah.
Yes. I guess we'll start Bills Broncos, which I think has the chance to be one of the most entertaining of the weekend. My key
Yeah.
matchup there is the Broncos pass rush against the Bills offensive line. And I just look at the way that they are swarming to the football in Denver, the different schemes that Vance Joseph has drawn up. Nick Bonito has 14 sacks. Jonathan
Mhm.
Cooper has 8. John Franklin Myers has 7.5. Zach Allen has 7. It's just we're going to
Right.
throw every rush concept at you, every blitz package, and we have the horses to execute it at a high level.
Mhm.
And Josh Allen, he was sacked 40 times this year, more than any other point in his career. Took a bit of a beating outside the pocket in Jacksonville, but
Mhm.
this is a much bigger test for that offensive line this week than what the Jaguars were able to do in the pocket on Sunday.
And the one team that hammered Allen the most was the Texans, who we saw last night. And what can they do? Rush you with the guys, not super duper blitz packages, although the Broncos do more blitz packaging as well. And what's your best combat? What's the best Bills combat for that pass rush?
I mean, you got to run into it, right? I mean,
Right.
you got to get James Cook involved. You got to let James cook. You just have to hand
Yeah.
it off to him 25 times and feed him and use the run
Yeah.
to set up the pass. Get them playing on their heels a little bit. That's to me
Right.
that's the salve.
Right. And it's the thing that the Bills hate to do. It's like Damn, we just ran down their throat for a touchdown. Time to pull out all the passing packages. They kind of did a little bit of that, although the Jaguars did a worse version of that against the Bills. The Jaguars out-Bills the Bills with abandoning the run last week.
What was that? Because you're looking at, you're averaging like 12 yards per carry, and then you go to throw Mageddon mode. I didn't understand like how you can watch that happen. Did you get to the 15th play? Was it like, here's
Yeah.
my 15 scripted running plays? Forget that. We like throwing the ball. As a scout told me, they put it in Trevor Lawrence's hands, and he was just iffy.
He was just iffy. Right. He didn't have to win it. But you don't have to win this, but please do.
Yes.
We could win this as a team, but we want you to try to out Josh Allen. Yeah, my theory on this is a lot, especially these younger offensive coordinators, they played Madden when they were kids, and they are Madden players. And it's like, oh, I built this super team and I could run the ball to win. I'm bored. Let me try all the other pass plays that we spent all week installing. Let's have fun with this. And they forget themselves. And if the score is close, or heaven forbid they're down by a field goal, then it's like, oh, 2-minute hurry up mode. Let's go. We saw LaFleur do a little bit of that. Like, let's try to bombs away here while we're still winning. And that's what the Jaguars did. That's what the Bills do all the time. So what you're describing is the strength on strength. Bills have a good offensive line. Broncos have an outstanding pass rush. It's just a matter of, will the Bills do what they need to do, or will they play into the hands of Vance Joseph and the Broncos?
I kind of like your matchup as well. What led you to pick that one?
Mine is Tre'Davious White against Courtland Sutton. That's the star wide receiver, only wide receiver most people really know about of the Broncos, versus the veteran cornerback, not necessarily the number one cornerback, but the veteran cornerback of the Bills. Trey White had 3 passes defensed on Sunday. Since week 15, Trey White has allowed just 3 catches on 13 targets for his receivers for 28 yards allowed, 1 interception, 1 tipped interception that the other guy caught to win the game, Cole Bishop caught, a pass breakup when covering A.J. Brown, because he does sometimes wind up on the wide receiver 1 because him and Benford move around a little bit. That's the matchup. If Trey White, who was iffy early in the year as an older veteran, can stop Courtland Sutton, then Bo Nix and the Broncos go into horizontal passing mode where everything's a rollout for a gain of 1.5, and then you can shut them down. And then Josh Allen don't have to be Superman. He just has to get them to 23, 24 points, and the Bills get that win.
23 points might win it. When you look at these two defenses, 23 points might be the line of demarcation in that game. Looking at the next one on the list is the 49ers and the Seahawks. I have Sam Darnold against the 49ers secondary, not necessarily because of the playmakers in San Francisco's secondary, but they just seem to be getting it done. You look at what they did. They held Jalen Hurts to 168 yards and a touchdown, and he only had 75 yards in the second half, only 9 completions in the second half. How much of that is Eagles' offensive futility versus what they were doing in the backfield? And listen, these were 2 really tight games between these teams in the regular season. Sam Darnold has 20 turnovers so far this year. If you force his 21st and or 22nd, that might be enough to spring the game in your favor. If you're Seattle, that might be, if you're San Francisco, that might be all you need to do.
And that secondary played well in week 17. You can't go all the way back to week 1 when you're talking about Seahawks versus the 49ers because Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and those guys were out there. But the 49ers were containing Sam Darnold and the Seahawks very well. I believe it was week 17. I might be a week off. Upton Stout, not somebody who's exactly a household name, has been playing well. He's been one of the keys out there. He'll go up there and make the tackle on you and keep the play in front of him. The kind of things you have to do when you're shorthanded in the secondary. That's going to be a tough matchup.
I agree. Who do you have for yours?
Went to the other side of the ball because I saw what you did, so I didn't want to stay on the same side of the ball. So I went with Kyle Shanahan versus Mike McDonald and his sidekick, Aiden Dirty, the defensive coordinator. I figured give him a shout-out because he's getting some head coaching interviews. And also I like saying Aiden Dirty because it's an amazing defensive coordinator name. Okay. So the Seahawks have been riding dirty all year. Kyle Shanahan, we saw what he did last week against a good Eagles defense, and it is very much scheme, chess match for him. Sky Moore, Demarcus Robinson, what's his name? Tongas.
Juwan Jennings.
Juwan Jennings is a good ball player, and so is Juice. And obviously, McCaffrey a million different ways, but they know McCaffrey's coming. He's got a very, very limited palette to paint with, and he's going against a head coach and a coordinator who both have outstanding personnel and a pretty clever scheme that they are using to really befuddle people. So Shanahan's going to have to go deep into that bag of tricks. Didn't say bag. Deep into his playbook.
The Wizarding playbook. The
Wizarding bag. Wizarding bag's a thing, right? That's different.
That is
right?
different.
It is. That's like a
I purposely avoided the in his bag in the column. I made sure to avoid the reference because I don't want to deal with being teach tape on the podcast this week.
Absolutely. And I almost walked myself right into it. So Kyle Shanahan has to go deep into his dream journal to come up with.
I like it. I like it.
I see your children's art back there, and I went with dream journal there to come up with ways to move the ball against a team that held them to, 3 points, 6 points last time they met.
For sure. And let's go to the next game, the Rams versus the Bears. I can't wait for this one. Because the Rams were kind of put on their heels. Matthew Stafford with a comeback win in Charlotte, of all places, made it enough big throws when the Rams needed him to do it most. Caleb Williams with another comeback win, largest Bears postseason comeback in franchise history. My key matchup here is Bears running backs Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift against the Rams rushing defense. And it's not just what they do. They're 8-4. The Bears are when they rush for more than 100 yards, but the running game seems to really bring out the best in Caleb.
Yes.
Williams has 17 touchdowns and just 4 interceptions in those 12 games where they rush for 100 yards or more. I kind of like my chances when I don't need the quarterback to be the hero, and I can ground and pound with those two backs.
And the guy you're looking for in the Rams defense is Nate Landman. Okay. It's definitely a good matchup. And what old 20 years of football outsiders will tell you is that, for play action, you don't really need to establish the run because the play action works on its own. I think for the Bears, they need to establish the run or be running well to set up that play action because it's really built off of creating these wide open opportunities against this team that doesn't want to get gouged anymore. And that's a lot of what Loveland has been able to do and Burden has been able to do on short passes and yak coming off of play action. I think that's an important matchup.
And the Rams have allowed 100 yards 8 times this year. They're 5-3 in those games. But I think when you look at a playoff situation, if you're the Bears, you're not just running the ball to set up your offense. You're running the ball to shorten the game and create less opportunities for Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams to burn you because Carolina found out all it takes is 1 or 2 explosive throws down the field, and you're the team on their heels. You're the team that's going to have to change what you do to catch up.
There's one other reason to run the ball. And that's because it's 15 degrees outside. And that ball is harder than like a titanium boulder. And I'm checking the times. Forgive me, I didn't check the times. If that's the Sunday nighter, that's going to be the night game. And the temperatures, we'll check at the end of the week, are going to be well below freezing. We're not talking about a cold night. We're talking about like a freezer bowl kind of night. So I was originally going to make it Matthew Stafford versus outside because you know how I love to harp on the hothouse orchid Rams. Not just Stafford, who does play okay in the weather, but the whole team seems to go south, even if it's a little windy like it was in Charlotte. Not doing that, not harping on that. I want to talk about, hold on, I got to find my notes. Did I say it right? The Bears left tackles versus Jared Verse, the right edge rusher for the Rams. Now, Bears left tackle situation, Ozzie Trapillo, rookie, started most of the year. He's hurt. Braxton Jones, veteran, been there for a couple of years, was a starter for a couple of years in the Justin Fields era. He's hurt, though he might be coming back. All eyes right now are on the third stringer. That young man's name is Theo Beneday. Now, he played a lot in Week 18. He played a lot earlier in the season because they've been dealing with this all season long. Justin Herbert is not the only guy who's had a lot of problems at tackle. A lot of guys have had it this year, folks, including Caleb Williams. So here's Jared Verse's numbers. 7 pressures on Saturday against the Panthers. They knocked Ike Ekwonu out for a while. That helped. He has 27 pressures in his last 7 games. Verse has been getting to the quarterback all year, but a lot of pressures. Now, Benedette, again, or I don't know if it's Benedette or Benedet, I'm sorry, been pretty good this year, but week 18 faced Hutchinson a lot, 4 pressures. Against the Giants early in the year, Giants have all those pass rushers, if nothing else, 4 pressures. It's the vulnerability there. Verse can get early wins, get to Caleb Williams. Now, we know Caleb Williams can play outside of structure.
Yeah.
You want to make him play outside of structure. You still want to make him get out of that pocket and make the miracle throws.
Oh, for sure. And Jared Verse is a one-man game record. I would have featured on
Yes.
him in the first couple weeks of this season. He's a guy that's an ascending star. He's the focal point of that defense. There's a lot of young talent at all 3 levels of that Rams defense. He might be the most gifted edge rusher they have on that team. He can wreck a game, and that might mean that you're going to have to keep Cole Kmet in to block, to chip him, move him around, and that's one less option, bailout option as a pass catcher in passing situations for Caleb. But there again, that's where running the ball becomes so effective. That if you're going to go out there and this is going to be a Bears-Eagles type of situation where you're just going to hand it off over and over and over and run it down their throats, you can neutralize Jared Verse. And the impact, you're not going to keep him off the stat sheet, but you might keep him from creating turnovers or ending drives that you need to put together late.
Right. You give this young man and maybe Kmet and maybe Loveland the opportunity to hammer him. So when it's time to drop back, maybe he's not 110%, and maybe he doesn't like that he's skating around there on ice. I believe he's a Florida State kid originally, so he might not love it out there either. Now, this is the one I don't know because this was not in the column, but Texans Pats.
Yep.
Who do you have?
It's added in there. It's Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter versus Will Campbell and Morgan Moses. I think that's just where it comes down to, right? Because I look at it in terms of, we can talk about Myles Garrett being the best pass rusher in the sport. We can have conversations about Max Crosby, about Micah Parsons when he's healthy. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson might be the best duo of pass rushers out there. And you look at 27 sacks combined, and you look at Moses has allowed 6 sacks, 57 pressures, Campbell and Moses combined. Drake May's really good against pressure. He has the highest passer rating against pressure in the league, 103.1. So he's done it before. But these Houston dudes, they just feel like a different animal.
Right. And their pressure is combined with Stingley and Laster on the back end. Yes. I'll throw to my go-to guy. Your go-to guy is covered. So May's just like Caleb. Yeah, he's really, really good under pressure. Make him feel it. That doesn't mean you take the pressure off. That's crazy. You make him continue to verify that storyline. And who was it? Adafe Owa had 3 sacks for the Chargers against them. They forced fumbles of May, so you can force May to make mistakes if you're applying that kind of steady pressure.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers found out last night just how dangerous that defense is. I mean, they lived in his lap all night long. They did it to Josh Allen, when they played him back in October, November, just completely terrorized him. The Texans brand of football travels, and it's not just what you do with the edge rushers, because as you said, there's playmakers at all 3 levels of that defense. And then you look at the offense, you can hand it off to Woody Marks, and he's suddenly become this explosive run factory where he's going to extend drives and shorten the game. So, look, if you can keep a clean pocket for Drake May, it's going to help. I just don't love those 2 tackles against those 2 edge rushers if I'm the Patriots.
That's true, and I don't love those 2 edge rushers against any tackles in the league. Maybe if it was Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, maybe you take your chances there. But that's the equalizer that those Texans have. Now, one of my takeaways from last night's game is obviously Texans defense. And, CJ Stroud can make things happen. They found more balance. They had trouble with crowd noise, in my opinion, last night. So my pick here is the Texans offense, their center, their inexperienced centers, Stroud, versus the Patriots home crowd. Because you saw bad snaps, wide snaps, early snaps, miscommunications, a couple of lining up errors. There were some problems on defense, I think, substituting in. Now, Aaron Rodgers is good at spotting you. Oh, you're substituting 6 guys. But I mean, he can still do that. Crowd Noise seemed to be an impact player there. So the Patriots fans who are listening, who are tired of hearing about me going on about the schedule, you want to do something more than just cheer for Drake May. I think you can get the Texans to make mistakes if they are dealing with that noise for that entire 4 quarters. And it's a mistake-prone offensive line. It's inexperienced centers or it's rotating centers. Take that opportunity and force them to play another game next week like they had to play on Monday night.
We're going to be doing this podcast next Tuesday or Wednesday, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be like prescient. I feel like I'm going to be calling you Nostramicus at the top because that really feels like, that's the best explanation I've heard for whatever happened with C.J. Stroud in Pittsburgh last night, because that
Right.
was so uncharacteristic in terms of the bad snaps, the
Mhm.
interceptions, the
Yeah.
errant throws. He was just so far out of sync against a defense that I didn't think they did anything unique to anything
Yeah.
that Houston has faced in weeks past, but he was a borderline liability. C.J. Stroud was for that offense.
Right.
Crowd noise might have been it. That might have been the factor there.
I know one and definitely two fumbles where what's the ball? Why is the ball being snapped? That there were two
Yeah.
plays I think that were definitely that, and other ones where it just felt like, can this team make the calls at the line that I think they want to make? Can they do these things? Is everybody on the same page? They were struggling, and that's something the Texans should be working on a solution to this week, because again, they know they're on the road next week, and if they win, they will be on the road unless they face the Bills. I might be mixed up there. It's something that they have to solve moving forward.
All right, this isn't on the outline, but I'm going to throw it to you anyway. I'm going to put you on the spot. The road team that you're most confident in winning this weekend.
It would actually be the Texans followed by the Bills.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I've Houston. I would not be shocked if San Francisco goes up to Seattle and gets it done.
That's my least confident. And actually, the Rams, if it was 54 degrees and partly cloudy, it might be at the top of the list. But that's my least competent team because remember how narrow that game really was on Sunday, with the 49ers only getting called for one penalty the entire time. And the fact that not only did they overtake the Eagles very late in the game, but they were at risk at the end. It just feels like the Seahawks are the Eagles without the self-loathing, with a better ability to get out of their own way when they need to, and that they're not going to put themselves in a position where, it's 13-10 at halftime, we're going to hold on for dear life. It'll be 13-10 at halftime, and it'll be 26-10 at the end because they'll make the big plays they have to.
I give Sam Darnold a ton of credit for his performance down the stretch, certainly for what he did in not turning the ball over against the 49ers in Week 17 or Week 18, whatever that game was, to get home field. I just wonder if Clint Kubiak can hide him for an entire playoff game. I just wonder if it's a one-score game late, you're up or down 3, you're trying to air it out to Jackson Smith and Jigba, backbreaking interception, drive down the field, a game-winning field goal by Cairo Santos. I wonder if there's one of those meltdowns in you to turn a promising season into another Sam Darnold pumpkin. That's why I think Houston has the best chance to go on the road and win, but that's why I give San Francisco a fighter's chance.
You're in the same boat as a lot of people, and it's in the back of my mind, too. How much do you trust Sam Darnold? Most of us assume that Darnold will make some kind of mistake come the playoffs, as opposed to me, who always assumes Justin Herbert will make some kind of mistake come the playoffs and is never disappointed.
And your faith was rewarded. What's coming up in the 2 Deep Zone the rest of the week?
As you pointed out, got the Cairo Santos is on the Bears.
I name dropped the wrong kicker.
Yes. I didn't even spot that. It's Myers, right?
It's Eddie Pinheiro.
Pinheiro is the Niners guy.
Kicker of the 49ers, yes.
Yes, yeah. It was
I had my Eddie Pinheiro, Cairo Santos wires crossed, okay?
Take a bunch of NFL writers, not fantasy guys, but the NFL writers who do all this stuff, like line us against the wall, make us do 2-shot seats, take away our phones, and make us do a kicker. Like without looking, name the kicker. A lot of us would die 1,000 deaths.
Yes.
I know Kami Fairbairn. I know that one. I saw him last night. Boswell, I know that one. But the further down you go, and if they've got an ordinary name or they were injured, forget about it. Forget about it. I would probably say, Jake Moody 44 times if really called upon. In addition to the Steelers thing that I just put out, I'm watching the coaching carousel, and while it doesn't look like it's going to turn, we're not going to get a lot of solutions in the next couple of days. A couple of things to talk about, like the Dolphins' new GM. That's an interesting thing. Looks like the Commanders found their offensive coordinator. He was just making coffee in the office. Isn't that great how that works? So we're going to be looking at things like that this week. Not a lot of playoff previews this week, but what do you have coming up?
Yeah, it's going to be a busy week over between the hash marks. Friday, of course, the mailbag. Send in your questions. I will pose them to NFL executives, coaches, scouts, former players, get their thoughts on the biggest storylines. There'll be some sort of playoff preview feature in the mold of the Caleb Williams feature that we had on the site last week. Hopefully Thursday-ish, the all breakout team from this year. You, myself, and Joe Stazak making our picks for the all breakout team. That should be a lot of fun. So a busy week between the hash marks. Great time to hop on board and subscribe to both of our publications.
You're running that on Thursday, you said?
Well, Thursday or Friday. Next week.
So you're saying you need my submissions. How many do you need?
I think it was a quarterback and 4 others. I think that's what it was a year ago. A quarterback and 4.
You need 5 guys by tomorrow morning? I gotta tell you, don't worry about it. Oh my God, man!
You're getting me Thursday. I don't care. Run it Thursday afternoon. Just say this ain't newspapers. So there are no deadlines here. It runs when it runs.
Guys, holy crap! I'll get it to you. Don't worry. It'll get done. I'll make another pot of coffee. I'll get it to you. And you want blurbs too, right? You want blurbs?
A couple sentences. 2-3 sentences tops.
2 or 3 paragraphs. 500 words each. 2,500 words.
Yeah, we're going to write a book. We're going to publish a book.
Yeah, write an article, send it to me so I can publish it. I'm a little punchy this time of year, folks.
We all are.
I don't know.
The burnout is like Rock'em Sock'em Robots with the focus. The playoff games focus you, but the burnout is trying to win the battle.
I don't know what you did to deserve this either, to be fair. You did nothing to deserve this.
You never know.
Do a blurb on Cairo Santos. It'll be 4 kickers and a quarterback. All right, perfect.
There you go. He's Mike Tanier. Follow him on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. Be sure you subscribe to the Two Deep Zone. The content that's been up there over the last 2 weeks, some of the best football content you'll read anywhere. Subscribe to Between the Hash Marks on Apple Podcasts. Check it out on YouTube at Matt Lombardo NFL. We have close to 60 people in the room. Thanks to everybody for joining us on the live podcast. You can subscribe to Between the Hash Marks on Substack as well. Follow me on Blue Sky at Matt Lombardo NFL. Same thing on Threads. Mike, ton of fun as always. Great games to look forward to, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, I got to get going and start working on some blurbs.